welcome back to another episode of the Lonely Liberal Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Zankin, and I am so happy to have you on this lovely Wednesday evening. We got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about something that I've been thinking about over the last week, which is this Democratic Party autopsy report of the 2024 election. So what is that? It's a official 192-page report that's supposed to tell us why the Democrats think they lost the election in 2024. Now, you would think there'd be some obvious contenders of why that happened, I don't know, Biden being 1,000 years old, Gaza, the debate he had with Trump. But weirdly enough, none of those made the 192-page paper, making many of us, including myself, go, what's going on here? But I don't want to just talk about the paper because we'll get to that. We'll talk all about what's inside. But I really want to focus on the Democratic establishment itself, who they are, what they actually do, and why the gap between what they say and what they do is the real reason why they keep losing. So, as you can imagine, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm really, really happy to have you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and review and all that stuff. But without further ado, let's get to it. All right. So I think the first place to start is, what is the DNC, right? The Democratic National Committee. What is that? So for those who know about the DNC, they have a reputation as kind of this shadowy puppet master. And frankly, that reputation has some real origin. And it really starts with the 2016 election, specifically talking about the Bernie Sanders-Hillary Clinton dynamics. And it was when a bunch of emails in 2016 were leaked showing DNC staffers not just mocking Sanders, they were actively blocking debates between him and Hillary. And one CFO literally suggested that they leak that Bernie is an atheist to try to hurt him in the South. Awful. And what actually happened because of this? Well, the chair at the time, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, ended up having to resign. So this is actually a huge conspiracy theory that got proven true, which is that the DNC was actively not wanting Bernie to win. I think that's safe to say. But I do think it's also safe to say that the DNC didn't change vote counts, right? Clinton was winning the votes. So the DNC, without a doubt, tilted the playing field. They put their thumb on the scale. I mean, this debate scheduling stuff, the tones, the donors, this is bad. But it's difference between like bias and all-powerful control, right? So what the DNC is supposed to be doing, what the actual purpose of this thing is raising money, distributing it to state party officials, run the big convention that they have, set the rules, and basically maintain the voter database. That's what they're supposed to do. What they're not supposed to do and what they don't do is set congressional agendas, write legislation, and tell Schumer and Jeffries what to do. That's not what they're supposed to do. So their real main job is fundraising, right? That's what I just said. And they suck at it. They suck at it. How do I know they suck? Well, currently the DNC has $14 million of cash on hand, but $18 million in debt. They literally took out a $15 million loan in October just to keep the lights on. Compare that to the RNC, right, the Republican counterpart. They have $117 million in the bank and zero debt. That's a 7-to-1 cash disadvantage heading into a midterm election that's absolutely massive. The one thing they're supposed to do, they are failing at. So if I'm telling you the DNC isn't at least the whole establishment, who is, right? Well, it isn't a secret council. It's a conglomerate, a coalition of a bunch of people. The first, kind of the head of it, is the congressional leadership, and that is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and effectively their donor network behind them, I guess you could say. We covered this in detail in our PAC episode a few weeks ago, but the long and short of it, the TLDR of it, is they have a bunch of donors, including AIPAC, that actively sway the way they handle legislation, obviously, right? But it is important to know that these kind of three legs, right, the politicians, Schumer and Jeffries, the donor network, and this DNC, they don't coordinate in like this smoky, eyes wide shut kind of room. They actually just share donors, frankly. They just attend the same fundraisers. They all align around the same thing. And they keep picking candidates who will continue to do what they want, right? Safe, centrist, unlikely to push anything type people. And that's just the truth. So it's not this elaborate kind of sneaky little conspiracy thing. It's just political donations. It's unsexy, but it's true and diabolical all the same. And not only is this bad, right? We all agree, I hope, that money in politics is bad. But because the Democratic establishment often talks about getting money out of politics, right? It's one of their cardinal kind of beliefs. It really makes them look like hypocrites, right? It's hard to argue you're the party of the people when people are very aware that you're taking all these donations, right? And not only do they use these donations, they use them poorly. I mean, let's just look at these primaries. We saw Schumer backing Governor Janet Mills over Graham Plattner, while Plattner was also winning at double digits at that time and then obviously ended up winning. They backed Andrew Cuomo, a man who left in disgrace, backed by billionaires. A guy who was literally endorsed by Donald Trump, let's be honest here, over Zoran, who literally won 1 million votes. And they try to freeze out James Tallarico, the only Texas legislator who's never taken corporate PAC money in history. He ran on 98% a small donor campaign. And they endorsed Crockett instead, who I appreciate is not like super centrist, but still. So they tell you they want corporate money out of politics, but then they deploy it against their own voters, right? Now, if we compare this to the Republican side, they don't pretend. And honestly, it's this interesting phenomena of the bad guys get to be bad because people know they're bad because they don't pretend to be good, right? MAGA Inc., the Trump PAC, doesn't pretend. It's literally an open loyalty enforcement program. If you cross him, he primaries you, and everyone knows it, right? And frankly, it's working, right? Cassidy, gone. Massie, gone. Cornyn, gone. They're all gone. And Cornyn specifically is crazy because he's the first Texas Republican senator to lose his own party's nomination ever. Okay? That's crazy. So they're all gone because Trump's machine is aligned with his base. That's the difference, is the Democratic machine is not aligned with their base, and the Republican machine is very aligned with their base. That's the problem. That's the establishment. And frankly, they should be embarrassed. But their embarrassment doesn't just end with their lack of ability to pick candidates. It continues on to this autopsy report that we're going to talk about. You could call it 192 pages of motivated blindness, right? And Ken Martin, who is the head of the DNC, started with, when he was releasing it, the first line of his kind of announcement was, "I am not proud of this product. It does not meet my standards. I don't endorse what's in this report or what's left out of it," right? So let me, in plain language, the chair of the Democratic Party released an official document while publicly disavowing it. That's where we are, okay? And like I said earlier, there's 192 pages, and here's what's not in them. Nothing about Gaza, nothing about Israel, nothing about Palestine, zero mentions. Zero mentions about Biden's age. Zero mentions about his debate with Trump, which may have been the most consequential debate in American political history in terms that it literally led to a candidate dropping out. There was no mention at all about how Harris only got 107 days and literally didn't get voted in through a primary. She was literally anointed, not chosen. That wasn't even mentioned. And just because, you know, I care about it, I'm an environmental guy. Climate change, the phrase, only appears one time in this entire document. But no doubt about it, the most indefensible omission is Gaza. It's crazy. And it's especially crazy because the researcher who wrote the report, who just got fired, by the way, Paul Rivera, told people he interviewed that the quantitative data clearly showed Gaza hurt Biden and Harris. He said that. He found it in the research, and yet it didn't make the report. Also, Kamala Harris herself, in her own memoir, said, quote unquote, Biden's blank check to Netanyahu hurt her campaign. She even knows it. So not only did the candidate know it, the researchers know it, yet it didn't make the report. So this isn't an incomplete autopsy, right? This is a document specifically designed to avoid implicating the donor class, specifically the donors who benefit from democratic silence on Gaza. That is obvious because why else isn't it in there, right? And I wanted to then segue to the mysterious moderate who keeps not showing up, because when you talk to the DNC people / the political consultants who interact with these guys, which I have, they always say some version of, we can't go too far left because we need to get the moderates, right? The theory is to win, you need these moderates. You need to persuade these votes in the middle. Don't alarm the donors. Don't alarm the moderates. Find the safe candidate. That's what they all say in various puff pieces. That's effectively what a lot of really smart people say. Yet, the voters are rejecting this theory in the most direct way possible. Like I said, Mamdani beat Cuomo by 8 points and got 1 million votes. Plattner led Mills by double digits when Schumer endorsed her. Tallarico, who took no PAC money, like I said, beat the better-known, better-connected Crockett. The voters aren't confused. They're not making mistakes. They're making a deliberate choice for candidates who are at least claiming that they'll actually fight, don't take money, and don't apologize for their politics. So the establishment can influence the playing field. Clearly, we're seeing it in MAGA. But they can't close this motivation gap. When the voters are genuinely energized, and you'll hear Bernie say this all the time, institutional money loses. And we are seeing this because the motivation to change is enormous. God, right? And I want to end with these contradictions. And this is what's so frustrating, right? And nothing, I think, kind of encapsulates this more than one of the biggest narratives that, we talked about on the show, but people have talked about since they lost, which is, how do we reach young men? How do Democrats reach young men? We don't have a Rogan. We don't have a Theo Vaughn. How do we get it? The young men have turned to the GOP, to Trump's, macho-ness. What do we do? And Hassan Piker, to his credit, and for those who don't know, he's a political commentator with 4.4 million followers on Twitch and YouTube, who are famously mostly young, mostly progressive males, who, by the way, the Harris campaign invited to a live stream in 2024 is getting attacked by the Democrats. Establishment Democrats and pro-Israel groups have been running coordinated campaigns to label him an anti-Semite and pressure progressive candidates to disavow him. All he's done is appeared with progressive Senate candidates who are criticizing Israel over Gaza. They asked how to reach young men. The answer showed up with 4 million followers, and they're trying to cancel him. It's crazy. They say corporate money corrupts politics, yet people are backing Andrew Cuomo. They release a 192-page document about what went wrong, and it literally doesn't mention that their own researcher found was one of the biggest reasons. It's just so crazy. They say they want to rebuild trust with working people, and then they handpicked a Senate candidate who was a 78-year-old governor instead of an oyster farmer and a Marine combat vet from Maine. This isn't a coincidence, all right? This is a pattern. This is an establishment saying one thing and doing another. And this autopsy is the clearest proof yet because it's their own document, right? And this leaves us with an incredible, difficult decision to make. and one that I think is obvious, but I understand why I guess it's more difficult for some, which is, what do I do? You know, I'm a Democrat. I don't like Trump. Or even you're not a Democrat. You just don't like Trump. Do I just vote for the Democrat? Vote blue no matter who, as they say. And it's kind of like, yes. You know? Like, it is. Because Trump is that bad. This is fascism. You know? This is authoritarianism. We are watching our democracy melt before our eyes. We are becoming a laughingstock on the world stage. It's a disaster. And truth be told, Chuck Schumer is a joke in my eyes, yet I'd take him 100 over 100 over any MAGA politician. So people are stuck. Do they vote for a party that they know isn't listening to them? Or do they keep the status quo? Well, when the status quo is this bad, you have no choice. But, and this is what I'll say, in 2028, when Mr. Schumer is up for re-election, a lot of these guys are up for re-election, we need to all remember, because frankly, a lot of these guys, a lot of these incumbents, they need to go because they just don't seem to get it. And that's our show, folks. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please remember to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. You can also email us at media@thelonelyliberal.com. So the email is media@thelonelyliberal.com. Let me know what you think, comments, questions. You want to come on the show, all that stuff, let me know. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've been due for a rant against the Democratic Party. Remember, people always ask, why is it called Lonely Liberal? Because these Democrats are driving me nuts. At least the party is. So, we'll be back on Sunday with Rick to talk about the news of the week. And so don't forget to tune into that. But until then, take it easy. I'll talk to you later. Bye.